On my walk today, I've been reflecting on the fact that I would always have sex with a man right away, even if he was somebody that I was looking to have a long-term relationship with, because I felt like that was the only way that he would ever love me. And it was the only way that I could prove my worth to him, because, you know, after years of being sexually abused by multiple different men, and I just felt that I was just so unworthy of love, and that I kept getting hurt over and over because there was something wrong with me. And, you know, of course, these thoughts still creep in every now and then, but I've done a lot of work and made a lot of progress, so these aren't my predominant thoughts in my head. And obviously, with feeling that I was, you know, not any good and unlovable, it attracted me to men that were more likely to hurt me, and more likely actually to treat me like I was unworthy and unlovable. And that, oh, sorry, the winds, I'm all over the place here today. A gloomy day today. So, and although this is starting out on a gloomy note, it's actually, you know, I'm coming on today because I've been reflecting on some very positive things during my walk today. And, you know, I've been single now for a few years, and I think that's one of the best things I could have done for myself, is to take time to just be with myself and make sure to do the work that I need to, so I don't keep ending up with men who treat me like crap, and who treat me like I'm undeserving of love and unworthy of love and respect. And boy, there's lots of noises out today. I think that's a dog. We just heard a siren. I was like, very busy place today. So even though I'm in the woods, obviously I'm, you know, very close to civilization as well. Sorry for all the distractions today. So what I've been reflecting on, so yesterday I was on a walk with a very good friend of mine, and he's actually a very important person in my life, because our relationship is completely non-sexual. There's not even any kind of sexual undertones to it. He's married, and there's nothing ever inappropriate about our interactions. And I think that is so important to me, for me to have men in my life who don't see me as a sex object. And what I've been realizing is I have been getting, over the past few years, more friends in my life, but particularly male friends where there's nothing about sex at all in our relationships, in our relationship. And I think that is so critical for me, and it has been critical in my healing journey. And this friend in particular, he is one of the kindest men, like one of the kindest, most loving men that I have ever met. And he always wants to lift everybody up. And I, you know, was sharing with him yesterday that I've been having a difficult time, and I've shared that in other videos recently, that life's been hard for me lately. And he was so supportive and caring and compassionate as always. And when we finished our walk yesterday, you know, when we were parting ways, he was like, "I love you," and he said it to me a few times. And I've been even though that wasn't the first time he said it to me, it's really got me thinking a lot today on how many friends I have in my life who really love me. Like, I know when he said that yesterday, he didn't need to say it. It wasn't forced. It was genuine. And I feel that with my friends that say I love you. And for me, that the first time I ever had a girlfriend tell me that she loved me, it took me aback, because I was like, somebody could love me without me having sex with them? Like, it was so foreign. And this was only a few years ago that the first time a friend told me she loved me. So, like, here I am 40 years old now, and it's only been in recent years where I'm having people that I'm not having sex with tell me they love me. And at first it was very awkward for me because I didn't believe that I was lovable. I didn't believe that somebody could love me without me doing something for them in exchange. I didn't believe that I was lovable. Just me, Stephanie, just me was lovable. And on my good days, of course, I know that I have many wonderful characteristics, but there is still that wounded part of me that, that part of me that heard that, one of my abusers grab the fat on my stomach and say, "You're so disgusting. You should be so grateful that I even want to touch you." Like family, people that I was supposed to love and trust as a child telling me that I was good for nothing and that I would amount to nothing in my life. And that the only thing I would ever be was a mom, because that was my only purpose in life, was to reproduce. And I probably wouldn't even be good at that. Like, these were the kinds of messages I got from a very early age. So I have to remind myself, like, it's no wonder that I feel like I'm good for nothing some days, because this was a message I got from very early on and heard very regularly growing up. And so I want to choke up just thinking about it, because, I'm so sorry for that child in me that had to hear that kind of programming. And for so many years, I allowed myself to be hurt by men and relationships that were no good for me, because I thought that that's all I was ever going to get. After being violated so much by so many people, from an early age, I felt like I was so broken, and that only somebody who was also broken would ever be able to be with me. I felt like nobody who was, healthy and normal and well-adjusted would ever be able to be with me and be with this broken part of me. I just never thought it was possible. And still today, even though I've done a tremendous amount of healing, there's still that part of me that feels like I'm never going to be able to find someone to spend my life with who isn't broken himself, because how could he ever understand me? And that's, again, why it's very important for me to continue to be alone right now, because if I go into my next relationship with this belief that, or go into seeking out another relationship with this belief that I can only be with another wounded person because only a wounded person would understand me, I'm not going to end up in a healthy relationship if I have that mindset. So again, very important I stay alone for a little while longer while I work on these things. But it's I think also significant that I'm alone right now, because part of me still wants to be loved and feel love, even though I don't want to be in a relationship right now. And I think it's been very important for me to see that I can be loved by people without being in an intimate relationship with them. And of course, I'd still like an intimate relationship someday. I think that's a biological need for us to be connected to another person and to partner with another person. That's a very instinctual need. So I do see that for myself in the future again, but just in a healthier way. But I think, it's important for me to see that I can have people in my life now that will love me no matter how wounded I am. And even my friend yesterday, I was so, in many ways, ashamed to tell him that I'm struggling so much, because he's doing so well in his life, and I'm so happy for him that so much is going well for him. But usually our conversations are very positive and uplifting, and I felt like I was only going to bring sorrow and pain to the conversation. And none of that ended up being true, but that's how I felt. Like, I felt like I should cancel our walking engagement together yesterday, because I just didn't want him to see me, when I was in this vulnerable place. And I think it was so important that I spent time with him yesterday, because I was able to admit that I've been struggling and having a difficult time, and I was able to tell him that I almost canceled because I didn't want him to see me in this place, because I felt like he would look at me, and I'm going to probably cry even thinking about it. I thought that would scare him away. I still today feel that wounded part of me, that people cannot love the wounded part of me, that it's scary and it's dark and it's disgusting, and I am scared to be with that wounded version of me. So if I'm scared to be with this wounded version of me, how on earth can another person ever be there with me? And it was so good for me to say, I'm struggling, I'm worried about scaring you away with my struggles, and that you're not going to look at me in the same way. And he loved me anyways. And I think that was so important for me to be able to show my wounded parts. And for a man who has no sexual interest in me to still say that he loves me and he appreciates our friendship and that he's there for me whenever I need him. Oh, I think that was so important. Here I'm crying, but it's crying because it's almost like, wow, I feel so blessed by it, and it's still sort of like, feels awkward to me because it's still sort of surreal to me. And here I write books on trauma healing, and I coach, survivors of trauma, and here I am still in my own trauma healing and still having these moments of transformation where here I am at 40 years old, still shocked that somebody could love me when I'm in pain, and can love me even though I'm struggling is just surprising to me. And that's a little sad, that's so surprising to me. But again, it's the work that needs to be done. I think this was a very important part of my healing journey, for me to see that somebody can love me even when I'm not smiling, even when I'm sad, and even when I feel broken, I'm still lovable. And that's big. That's big. And to this friend, and to every friend and family member who has loved me, even with my broken pieces, I am immensely grateful. And if you're listening and you're one of those people, thank you. And if you're listening and you don't have people like this in your life, keep hanging on. I never thought it would happen. It's taken a long time for it to happen, but it has. And so you've got to hold on. But what I will say is that I had to do a lot of work to get to this point where I would allow people in and allow them close enough to me to allow myself to be vulnerable with them like this, and for them to love me. It's taken a lot, because before I would have pushed people away before we even could get to the point where they would love me. And I would sabotage the relationship. And part of why I would sabotage it made perfect sense, because I didn't want to get hurt. The majority of my traumas have occurred because, by the hands of other people, and, in losing other people. So people have caused me pain for most of my life. And so it was just survival. I just had to keep people always at as far as a distance as I could, so I didn't keep getting hurt. But as I developed self-care tools and better coping skills, I knew that I could handle if I was hurt, and that was important. So if you're in that place where you're not wanting to let people in because you've been hurt by other people, I get it. And what that means is you've got to find ways to be able to build up your internal and external reserves and resources so you can handle being hurt. And then, it's also been about setting boundaries for me, when the moment somebody starts showing me disrespect, and that they don't care about me, I draw a line, and I either get them out of my life, or I tell them point blank, if you want to stay in my life, you cannot treat me this way. I will not tolerate it. And so that's been important, is not, and also not allowing people, trusting my instincts. People always show us who they are. We've just got to listen. I mean, literally, people tell us point blank who they are, and sometimes we just don't listen. And even when people told me that they would hurt me and showed me in all these ways that they would hurt me, I allowed them into my life because I felt that's all I deserved. That's all I would ever get. That's all I would ever get because I was so wounded. And so, allowing people into my life, like this friend, from yesterday, it would have never happened without all of these things occurring. It would have never have happened unless I learned to trust my instincts and only allow people in my life, keep people in my life who I knew wouldn't hurt me, that had my best interest in mind. It wouldn't have happened without me setting boundaries, and it wouldn't have happened without me having coping strategies to deal if people did hurt me. And so all of these things were necessary for me to get to this point, and it's taken a long time. My traumas occurred at a very young age, and they covered a huge swath of my life. The majority of my life has been very painful. So understandably, it's taken me a long time to get to this point where I can allow people in, where they would love me unconditionally. But I'm going to tell you, it's been worth every bit of struggle and every bit of energy. Everything has been worth everything it's taken for me to get to this point where I can have friends love me without expecting anything in return. And that's big. And so again, if you're on a path like I've been on, keep holding on, and yes, you may not be ready to let people close enough to you to love you yet, but all I can say to that is, sounds very cliche, but just work on loving yourself first. And the more you're able to love yourself, the more it's easier it's gonna be to set lines in your life and say, no, I don't deserve this. Because I'm telling you, setting boundaries is one of the greatest forms of self-love. And you'll get there. It's gonna take time. So be patient with yourself, with the process, and recognize when you're pushing people away, good people away, because of your pain. Recognize it for what it is, and even if you might not be ready to let them in, recognize that your wounded part is playing itself out right now, and do what you can to bandage up that wound and care for that portion of you that's suffering. And even if it's years away before you'll allow somebody to love you and allow for you to love you, just keep, and now I've got a vehicle driving by, again, busy place today, just keep working at it, and the journey is amazing. Like, this experience yesterday was amazing, and it's taken years to get to this point. And it's taken a lot of work to get to this point, and it's every bit of it's been worth it. Every bit. Because that was a magical moment yesterday. And I hope you get to experience magical moments like this as well someday. So, as always, I wish you well on your journey, and bye for now.